Lovely to see so many friendly faces today. Thanks for giving me your time. Before I start, I wanted to reflect on a few things, which is, when you're asked to give a presentation like this, it's very easy for suppliers, product providers, service providers, whatever you want to call us, to come in and say, this is how you do everything. And I wanted to just acknowledge that there's some very large businesses in the room. Managing people is really challenging. So what I want as my objective today is to take just a few tips, just a few little points in the different pillars that I'm going to tell you about. If you can get a little bit of focus, really work on your processes, make your process foundation really strong, then you can worry about the people, the personalities, and the culture that can really top off success for the category. So, what have I got for you today? Well, very briefly, I'm going to tell you about who we are. Some of you already know. And then I really want to get you ready and willing. So this is really a reminder to some in the room, and might be something new to others in the room, about why are we talking about TPMS? What's the fuss about? What's the relevance for our workshops? I'm going to talk you through pillar number 1, our ability to inspect a vehicle, finding the opportunities. Pillar number 2, once you've found those opportunities, how do you engage with the vehicle owner and explain those things? And we've actually got a judge from our TPMS competition, Stefan Hay, who was with us yesterday. He was actually assessing the top 12 finalists in the UK for TPMS, exactly on their ability to engage with the customer. The third pillar we personally feel, as a service provider, is the easiest of all. You've done the hard work. You've inspected the vehicle. You've explained the service to the customer. This is the bit where hopefully you've got a fantastic partner who can help you resolve the issues really, really easily. So I'll tell you a quick bit about us. Autogem's been established for many, many years. It was based up in Leeds. My brother and I purchased the business in 2005 and moved it to London. Today we operate from a 75,000 square foot facility. We employ just over 60 people. We supply a very wide range of products. We've got about 4,000 SKUs in our range, from the really glamorous stuff like toilet paper and washing up liquid, to the more important things like gloves, car seat covers, chemicals, and so on, and exhaust fittings. And in 2006, we got involved in the tyre industry. And that was quite challenging, actually, to be honest. We were the new kids on the block, bringing in tyre valves, balance weights, tyre repair material, and so on. And what we found to get people's attention is we needed to be creative. We needed to bring innovation to the workshop. So that's the reputation that we built over the years. We brought lots of exclusive programs to the market as well, whether that's our TPMS solution, which we launched in 2007, in fact, our CV TPMS solution, or taking exclusivities with various different brands, and even introducing American laser tire scanning technology to the market. So hopefully I've got your attention. Let's now start talking about why we're actually here. I'm going to put the quiz out to those who know the answer to this question. When did TPMS phase-in actually begin? Anyone know? Come on, don't be shy, you know. You know. The phase-in began in 2012, November. But on November the 1st, 2014, all vehicles sold in Europe had to have a form of tyre pressure monitoring system included with them when they were sold. There's two different types. There's the ABS system, people will understand, which is what we refer to as an indirect solution. And there's the solution where you've got pressure sensors inside the wheel. Now, I want you to sort of start doing some very rough maths on this. Every year we register 1 million, 2 million vehicles, 1 million these days. Since 2014, we have millions and millions and millions of vehicles that have been registered on our roads. At least about 60% of those vehicles have tyre pressure sensors inside them. So we are now surrounded by tens of millions of pressure sensors inside wheels. And all of them will eventually need to be replaced because their batteries go flat, because they're affected by the environment, corrosion, and all sorts of things. They'll need to be serviced. And just to make it even more interesting, it's also part of the MOT, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment. So let's go into the opportunities in a little bit more detail to make you understand what the opportunities are. When you go and buy a tyre today, and there's lots of very large workshop chains that are here with us today, normally you get your valve included, you'll get your balance included, your disposal included in the price of the service that you're purchasing. Why do they change the valve? Because a normal rubber snap-in valve degrades, it perishes, it cracks, it hardens, it ages over time. Well, TPMS sensors also come with rubber valves on them. And often you don't even realize that unless you're dismantling the tyre. Well, that valve is also degrading, perishing, aging, cracking, whatever you want to call it. And these sensors last a long time. They last until the batteries go flat or they're broken, and I'm going to come on to that. So those sensors might be on vehicles for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but those tyres typically won't be. You're changing those valves. You should be changing your rubber TPMS valves at the same time. TPMS metal valves, they're a little bit different. They've got certain issues they suffer. Typically, they're exposed to the environment, and aluminium doesn't like the environment, so they corrode. They shear, the valve caps get seized. They are quite fidgety, and they can be replaced very easily with service kits, whether they're half kits or full valve kits. But here's the really important factor. TPMS is part of our MOT. We just held a competition. Over 1,000 workshops were represented in that competition. And I'm a little disappointed to say that some of them believed that if you had a low pressure warning light, you've got an MOT failure. That's actually incorrect. If you have a system malfunction, then you have an MOT failure. But actually, if you have a badly damaged valve, you also have an MOT failure. So we've got legislation, we've now got currently annual regulation that's driving business into your workshops. So that's the opportunity. And we really, really need to be thinking about it. But sensors also need replacing. Why is that? Well, I mentioned earlier, the batteries go flat. They get broken, less so in workshops these days because people have learned how to mount and dismount tyres properly. But consumers break them. They put the rigid air inflation arms and they shear off the ends of them, and then they don't know what to do. Sensors are often missing upon investigation. They'll come into your workshop, there might only be 3 functioning sensors. And people say, well, how do you know that? We know that because we take over 500 tech support calls a month. So we know some of the problems that are happening. And there's always a reason to actually replace a sensor. It's quite easy to do. There's lots of different solutions on the market. We have what we refer to as our eye sensor. It's 2 programmable sensors, and all of those issues can be resolved. We have about 99% coverage for the 150 plus original equipment sensors that are on the marketplace. And you can program a sensor, you can copy them, and we can tell you more about that outside the scope of this presentation if you'd like to come to our stand later. So I've told you about the opportunities. Now what I want to really get you thinking about is that process. I want to get that foundation really, really, really strong and firm. What we did many years ago is we introduced a workshop poster, a diagnostic workflow. And this is just a little excerpt of that workflow. And the reason we did it is we want to create standardization, especially when you've got large businesses, lots of people, staff turnover, all those challenges that our industry is suffering right now. Your time is incredibly valuable, arguably more so now than ever. You know, not enough people coming into the industry and so on. So we want you to make the most of it. And having a good workflow, starting and working efficiently around a vehicle, very, very important to having a TPMS success. And developing what I like to call that muscle memory, that, oh, I'm expecting a vehicle, I'm going to start with those dashboard lights. I'll only interrogate the ECU if I need to, depending on what those dashboard lights are telling me. But I am going to go and diagnose the sensors by the wheel side. I am going to capture that pressure, the battery life, perhaps the IDs as well, on my electronic tool. I'm definitely going to inspect the valves. I'm going to check those caps, those cores, the nuts, the stems. We're going to look for all that corrosion, all that damage. And what's really important is if you're using digital inspection tools, are they including TPMS as part of that? Can you say, I know I need to service the near side front valve. Can you tick that? Will that automatically offer that solution to your customer in your workflow process? I've put a question here, how quickly could you make a comprehensive TPMS inspection? Now, on our stand at the moment, we have a heavily booby-trapped car. It's got so many TPMS problems, I can't tell you. We like to call it a TPMS lemon. Now, if I went and I took my time, knowing all the things that's wrong with it, and I did an inefficient inspection, I can take 14 minutes to inspect that vehicle. But if you do an efficient inspection, I can tell you my colleagues who don't do this every day can do it in under 4 minutes. And you can capture a lot. This is about as bad as a TPMS vehicle you can get. So ask yourself how quickly you can make that inspection. What is your workflow process? How are you recording your findings? The great thing about diagnostic tools is for years they've been able to capture and export data. Well, now we're at an interesting phase where they're starting to get to a point where you can import data into your diagnostic tool before you do a job. So for example, with our iSensor Pro, we now have the ability, if your customers book a vehicle inspection with you, you can capture their name, their tire sizes, whatever else information, and pre-populate some of the report. But you can also capture the tread depth, the tire pressures, the battery status, the vehicle, the sensor IDs, and so on, all with the report as well, as export it back into the cloud. So software is getting quite powerful, and I wanted to just remind you of that. So you've done the inspection. This is the hard part. This is the bit where you've got to get our fantastic judges like Stefan impressed. How do you engage with the customer? It was really interesting listening to the judges yesterday, what they had to say. They said, we've got people who clearly understand the TPMS category, but how they represented it to us as consumers who technically know nothing about vehicles. Too much jargon, too much gobbledygook. Make it simple. I love what my colleague, a great colleague of mine who's actually in the room with me now, he once said to me, an educated customer is a happy customer. I really like what he had to say about that. And I think if you can follow your inspection flow to develop that muscle memory in the same way when you're doing your engagement flow, why not? You started at the dashboard. Tell your customer all about the dashboard lights, what they mean. This is the difference between low pressure. This is when you have a serious problem. What do you do? Why do you need to have your TPMS system functioning? Tell your customer a good news story. What do I mean by that? Well, earlier on I mentioned that we diagnose sensors and we actually can capture battery status. People don't want to always hear doom and gloom because they're not excited necessarily to come and change their tires. But you can always tell them, I've got good news for you. Your sensors are working fine. The batteries are okay. They might respond saying, I didn't realize they had batteries in them. They do. They'll eventually go flat, but we have the solutions to take care of that. Sow the seed for the future. Offer the various services that you found in your inspection. Utilize specialist POS displays, posters, electronic captured reports, things like that. Take the opportunity to educate the consumer about TPMS. In this case, we've got a nice display stand that teaches them about different TPMS valves. Physically point out your findings. Anyone who goes past our stand will see this goldfish bowl. And you go, well, what is the goldfish bowl about? Nothing makes me happier than when I meet a customer. It's quite bizarre. I do get the WhatsApps where they will send me a picture of a goldfish bowl or a vase full of broken sensors. They said it's working a treat. Well, what are they doing? They're putting a goldfish bowl in their reception area. They've got damaged, corroded, broken sensors, flat batteries, all the rest of it. They've got a collection of TPMS issues that have happened over the years. They've collected it. Show the customer, you've got corrosion on your sensor. This is what it looks like. You don't need to take them even to their vehicle. You can show them, pull it straight out of the goldfish bowl. They'll like it. I promise you they'll like it. And this is one of my favorites. And I'm sure there's many of us here who've spent many, many hours cleaning alloy wheels, getting all that awful brake dust off. It's not fun, is it? You have these beautiful, shiny, polished cars coming into your workshops, They're not necessarily new cars either. They're often old ones. Someone spent a lot of time making their car look beautiful, but they've got an awful corroded valve stem on there. You can change that corroded valve stem for them, and it's not expensive. They will be so happy to know it's possible. They didn't even know it's possible. We like to call that shiny wheels, dirty nuts. So you've done the hard work. You've done the inspection. You've done the engagement. Hopefully you've engaged with your customer. Now it's all about resolution. And again, we're going to go back to my workflow here, another excerpt from our workflow. In fact, what we've got here is we've got various scenarios, and we're actually explaining when to use what different menus on our diagnostic tools to program a sensor. So have a good workflow, know how to select the appropriate remedy, stick up the workflow on your walls. Utilize resources available to you. They can be available to you in all sorts of different ways. In our case, we provide onboard resources, online, offline, and on the phone as well, support. What do I mean by this? So for example, relearn procedures. They could be on your electronic tool. They could be on our TPMS web shop assistant. ID location, very important for when you're copying sensors to avoid human error. Again, they could be on your electronic tool. You could use our paper reports, or you could use our online solutions. Service kit lookups. You've identified a service kit. What service kit do I use to actually sell to the consumer? Where do you find that information? Quite easy. I always said resolution's the easy part. And if you're really getting stuck, pick up the phone. Hopefully, your suppliers have a dedicated hotline, taking lots of calls, understanding the category, and giving you fantastic support. We thrive on it. Over 500 calls a month, as I said earlier. And that really leads me into the final pillar, which I feel defines success. We've been doing TPMS for a long, long time, since 2007. We've been really fortunate to get access to some really good businesses that have really taught us what they need. 15 years in a category allows you to evolve and develop your program massively. A lot of things change over 15 years. And in the process, we've trained thousands of technicians. And we're represented in over 3,500 workshops using our technology in the UK, in fact. The program's quite wide. It's a lot more than just the physical things that you need for TPMS. It's not just sensors. It's not just the service kit valves or the diagnostic tools or the hand tools. There's a lot that needs to go around to it to make sure you have the right program. Data management is such a painful job, but that's what allows us to make sure you've got the right software updates and the right service kits available to your workshops to complete as many jobs as possible. Having good quality point of sale, branding point of sale, as some of the people in the room know. We brand point of sale for you. Doing training, very, very important. We got certified training. But we believe in even more than that. We now really believe in this partnership mentality that if you become engaged with us, we will partner with you beyond your initial training, beyond the onboarding. And yesterday was a fantastic day for us because it was the final of our TPMS Expert UK Award. This competition has really allowed us to collect data. It's allowed us to identify the knowledge gaps. For example, like I mentioned earlier, where technicians are not clear about the MOT. It's allowed us to understand the skills gaps when they're actually on a vehicle and working on it. And what that does, it allows us to further evolve our training. It allows us to review the state of the market and provide feedback to our partners who have been kind enough to partner with us. Because we've got 3,500 workshops working with us, we have the ability to know what TPMS success from a sales perspective looks like in terms of the number of sensors you're selling and the number of service kits you're selling. Whether you're a large national business, a smaller regional, or an independent business. And we can target that training according to where you are on your TPMS journey as it is. Some of our customers are part of different schemes like Pirelli Performance Center, where they're essentially doing mystery shops. We work with those mystery shop organizations to give them little tips and tricks to make it a bit more challenging for you. I'm sorry, it's my fault that TPMS gets that relevance in your audits, but that's how we can raise the standards. And hopefully, we can get you to come again and join our competition again, where we can again review, we can be your TPMS auditors, doing that job for you, telling you the state of your business, ranking your staff internally so that you can keep with the category, keep engaged with the category, keep developing that success. We've been doing it a long time. I've mentioned collaboration with key personnel earlier. It's a really, really important part. Having access to the decision makers and the people who drive those TPMS numbers is really, really important. Having a staff turnover contingency plan, so important today. What happens when a member of staff's left or a member of staff's joined? What are you going to do? You need to parachute them into your partner who should be looking after them. Lean on your partners. They should be doing a good job for you. Lean on your partners to provide you learning management software content if you're that large a network that you require it. Or take the training that's available from your partners. Use the industry sales and knowledge benchmarking. I think that's really powerful, to know how you rank in an anonymous manner, I must say. Knowing how you rank, how you are against your peers across the industry, I think that's really, really powerful, and it just hopefully keeps you motivated. And that's really sort of my conclusion. I hope you can tell we're a willing supplier, but with everything, we need willing workshops. And with the two, we can have really good success together. Just leaves me to finish something that I've said for many years. TPMS is not just a part number. It's not just one of those SKUs. Oh, we supply 30,000 part numbers. We deliver to you 8 times a day. My job here is done. Absolutely not. You know, there's a lot that goes behind it. And I've said for years that TPMS is a program. But today I'm going to actually argue it's more than a program. And it's absolutely, it has to be a partnership. You've got to engage with your suppliers. And if engaging in a partnership is interesting for you, please come and engage with me now, or come over to our stand. We're right at the front entrance at D10. If you've got any questions, I'm absolutely available for you. Thank you.